So welcome everyone to this session of Career Night. I'm really pleased to introduce to you one of my favorite teachers in the entire world, Vicky Santana. She's an alum from our program. She was with us for 4 years, getting her Spanish major and teaching certificate. And then she came back to Montclair for a master's later on. She's now cooperating supervisor of world languages and ESL in the Parsippany-Troy Hills School District. So she's the person who hires language teachers. She works with them, helps them develop professionally. So her own story, I think you'll find to be really inspiring, how she came into the teaching profession. But in addition to that, because of her roles now and all of her experience, she's got wonderful advice and suggestions and insights for those of us who care about teaching, and for those of you who are thinking, I don't know, maybe I want to be a teacher, maybe I don't. So I'm going to give Vicky the floor, and I think you're really going to enjoy all that she has to share with us. Thank you so much, Vicky, for taking the time to talk.
Vicky.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. And it's great to see so many people joining in. I see that we have like 2 pages here.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So Dr. Edstrom was my professor for Spanish 4. And so I was just telling them that it's been almost 15 years that I graduated, and it has been a wonderful journey, a wonderful experience. So I want to start out with talking a little bit about myself, just so you can kind of know where I come from, and we probably have more in common than you think we do. So my parents spoke Spanish at home, and I grew up, with grandma speaking. I was born and raised here in New Jersey, but we spoke Spanish at home with grandma and my parents, and that was fantastic, and it was a great experience. And when I was young, my brother and my parents couldn't afford to send us to summer camp or anything, so we went to Puerto Rico to visit my grandmother for the summers. So at that point, it was almost like punishment, like, oh my, you're sending me to Puerto Rico. But what a wonderful gift my parents gave us of keeping in touch with our culture and getting to know our grandparents, and having us speak Spanish all the time, and learning about the food, and and we've made friends. And so we did that from when I was 7 to 15. So I kept the Spanish language, and it was fantastic. Well, fast forward, went to high school, didn't know what I wanted to do, went to community college, PCCC, and that was a great experience, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was married young. And I worked part-time, and, I was raising my kids at home. And when my kids got old enough to go to school full-time, I just remember coming home from work one day and telling my husband, like, I have to go back to school. I just can't see myself doing this, working in this, pharmacy. And I thought I was going to be a pharmacist at one point, but I didn't have a passion there. So I was just like, there has to be more. I need something else. I need to feel purposeful. And I just was like searching. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was like, you know what, I need to look into things. So I remember calling Montclair State, and this young kid picked it up, young student, probably doing a little part-time job probably. And I said to him, I would like to go back to school. And he's like, oh, you're an adult? And I'm like, yes, I'm an adult. At the time I was 29. And I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. He's like, okay, let me get you in touch with someone. So Montclair had this program called Career for Adult Learners. I don't know if you guys remember Ricardo Ortegon. He ran it, and it was just like a blessing. So it was fantastic. They kind of like, I don't want to say held my hand, but they really they did hold my hand and helped me through the journey. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I had to take a language, and I was like, oh, I'll take Spanish 1. So I go to Spanish 1, and they're like doing the basic, hola, ¿cómo estás? And I'm like, oh boy, I think I know more than this. So I took the test, and I ended up in Dr. Edstrom's class. And when I ended up there, and I ended up in Spanish 4. I was so excited. I was like, I'm in Spanish 4, you know, because here I was with the language that I knew, you know, my background, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and just discussions. And, you know, sometimes you guys have to like pay attention to the signs. I believe that there's a lot of signs out there, and there's a lot of people that are put in your lives to kind of guide you where you need to go. So one day I went to pick up my son at school, and the ESL teacher said, you know, you're going back to school, right? You should think about being an ESL teacher. And I'm like, ESL, English as a second language. I can do that. And she was like, but you speak Spanish. You could even be a Spanish teacher. We're always looking for Spanish teachers. And I'm like, So, you know, I went back, Dr. Edstrom and I had a conversation, and I was like, you know, my Spanish is not phenomenal, but I have a head start. I know Spanish. I'm like, I can do this. I know about my culture. I love my culture. I love learning about other people's culture. So I ended up choosing a major, and I chose Spanish. So I was supposed to go back to school for 2 years to finish getting my degree. I ended up staying for 4 because we traveled abroad, we studied abroad, and then I took Italian because I wanted to know what it was like to learn a new language, right? And Italian, the Romance language, is phenomenal. And, you know, so and my husband was like, when are you going to graduate, you know? And my mother was, of course, like, you know, helping me, and she was happy, and she was helping me with the kids. So now comes, so at this point now, I believe I was maybe a few years, I was in early 30s, and I was subbing in a district in Parsippany is where I used to live with my family. And I was in Parsippany, I was subbing, and I became close with the substitute, the person who organized the subs. Like, she would give you the assignments and things like that. And I remember subbing for a year and a half. And I was like, I want to do elementary. I like little kids. I can't take high school kids. You know, they're too rude and so on. And I remember going to the elementary school and subbing for elementary teacher. And I was like, oh my gosh, these kids are so needy. Like, you know, he took my pencil, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so get another pencil. I was like, okay, this might not be for me. Then I go to sub at the middle school. And I'm talking about different subjects because, you know, once you get 60 credits, you can be a substitute teacher. So, you know, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but you can be a substitute teacher, and then you kind of get a feel of like, what subject are you like? What age group are you good with? So I went to middle school, and I can have conversations with these kids. And I was like, oh, I like middle school much better. So, and then I went, and I would go every assignment they gave me, I would go. So the days off from school, the days I didn't have school, I would go to, so if I went to school Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I would work as a sub Tuesday and Thursday because, you know, at $100-something a day, you're a student, we're poor, we need the money. So I went to high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love high school. Well, that was fantastic. And then, so I was like, okay, so when Montclair went and assigned me to be a student teacher in Livingston, which was at that point, it was our former chairperson of the department, Dr. Levine, that's where she lived. I was like, I think she has something to do with this because she came in even to see me. But anyway, so they put me with Spanish 4 and AP. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't know about that, but honestly, it was a wonderful experience. Well, before I even graduated, they called me, the sub organizer, she called me, and she said, and she's still secretary at the high school now. And she says, Vicky, they're looking for a Spanish teacher. And I mentioned your name, and they want you to come in for an interview. Well, I interviewed for that position. Within 20 minutes, they offered me the job because they knew me already. I was in the district for a year and a half. They knew, they already had, I guess, been talking. I was there with my portfolio, everything for them to show them. And they were like, you know, when can you start? So I graduated in December, January 2nd, I was already working. Now, it was a part-time position, but I took it because I was like, I just need my foot in the door. So I started working there at the high school, and I loved it. The department was fantastic. Everyone was so welcoming and friendly. The hours worked great for my schedule with parenting. Summers off was a nice bonus. And within 2 years, I became head of that department. We had like 10 teachers, world language, Spanish, French, and Italian. And I wasn't looking for the job, but they came looking for me and saying, "Are you interested?" And I'm like, "I'm only here 2 years, but I guess they saw my work ethic and my passionate about the language and my passionate for learning. And I just loved my job. And then, so that was 2 years. I taught for 6 years, and um, I loved my students. I loved my job. I loved what I did. And they approached me for a supervisor position. And I was like, me? Because I decided to, after 3 years of being at Parsippany Hills High School, then I was like, the district pays 40% of going back to education, of getting my, master's degree. Might as well do it. And if you calculate that, that's almost, that's pretty good. It's like $10,000 extra a year. And I'm going to be a teacher for 25 years. I'm like, that's worth it. So I went back, got my master's in educational leadership. A year and a half, I did a fast track program. Wasn't easy, but I did it. And then within the year, they asked me to be supervisor to apply for the position. I did. They interviewed me. I got the position, and here's where I am. So now I've been doing that for 8 years. So now I run the ESL department. This year they gave me preschool, and they gave me and I've always had the world language teachers. In the past, I've done social studies, I've done foods, I've been in charge of art, I've been in charge of music, because I think that what happens is, being in a special areas like world languages, they say, okay, well, Vicky has them, or Vicky can get them. So I'm just a team player. Like, okay, what do you need me to do? So I've had all those departments, and it's just been a whirlwind of experience. But think about all the people that I've gotten to know. So now this is my 8th year. I'm going into my 9th year now as supervisor. And, it's not always unicorn, rainbows, and, sunshine, but for the most part, it's something that I love doing. And being able to support teachers and being there for them has been like really rewarding for me. So now I supervise about maybe 43 world language teachers, 15 preschool teachers, and ESL, I think I have 17 now. So I've become an advocate for, our teachers and our students. And, now it's a challenging time with the pandemic, but we figure it out. So that's it, overall, like, that's my career. And in between, I've had, like, I have 3 kids. I'm a grandmother now. So, it really just has been a wonderful experience. But a lot of doors have opened up for me. But I think, like I said, I believe in, like, the signs, and, you really have to. I was looking for that purpose, and I really feel that I found it. So I don't know if most of you are I guess all of you are students, but if some of you are thinking about teaching or thinking about finding a purpose, I will say that the teaching profession is a very rewarding profession, and it's a profession where you can make a difference. I was just watching an interview this afternoon with David Letterman and Jay-Z, and Jay-Z mentioned his 6th grade teacher, and I'm thinking to myself, he remembers her teaching him vocabulary, and now he writes lyrics. It's so amazing what a difference one person can make in your life. So, I want to hear about your stories, and maybe I can also share about, experiences, that you can do, or anywhere maybe guide you in the right direction, or even answer your questions if you're really thinking about, is this profession for me? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Do I have the patience for it? And those are questions, and maybe some things that I can help you with, since I have supervised, a few people in the past few years. So Jeffrey, I see you nodding.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I was going to thank you for being an ESL teacher and advocating on behalf of all the teachers. Just like Jay-Z, I have a similar story where my parents immigrated from Colombia. So the English that I learned was all just going to school and through ESL. So I even remember my ESL teacher's name, Miss Monty, and it just looking back on it, like the relationship that you know that we shared, and the idea of like me being pulled out of classes to learn English, and to see how far back, like how like far I've come to where Spanish is a secondary language now as opposed to being a first language, even though I learned English in school. It's really interesting. I was organizing my room and I was reading some papers that I had written. And I was like, wow, this really sucks. Like my English was bad. But over time, I've really learned, and through school and ESL and taking Spanish classes, I've helped like encourage that. And I'm majoring in Spanish hopefully in the fall. And so yeah, I just wanted to thank you and thank everyone who does things like you. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Jeffrey. So the ESL teachers have really been, it's an interesting dynamic because they are a special type of person to be able to help students and to care so much and fight for those students and advocate for them. And that's a great teacher. That's a person that that makes a difference. Now you're thinking you're studying Spanish in the fall, and that's fantastic. But think about the connection that you're able to make with those students because of your background. And then what happens is when you make that connection with those students will in turn do for you and believe in you, and they know that you have their back, and vice versa. During the pandemic, when the pandemic first started, we had to get our students like computers, ESL, we're like, oh my gosh, we were getting them Wi-Fi, and we're checking our local churches and who was doing food drives. And we created a list and how many teachers signed up for that just so they can drive by the church and get their trunk full of groceries to then drop off to someone's house, right? Because we first take care of the student and then you take care of the learning, right? Because if they're not well, they can't learn. So that, and how you see and how powerful that was, that everyone came together to do that, right? But it does take a village. But it's fantastic that your parents brought you here. Now you like look at all these opportunities you have. So becoming a teacher, it's like it'll be such a good profession for you, because if you think about it, think about all the connections that you can make with your students. Even if they were to learn, if they were to come from India, or if they don't have to be Spanish speaking, but the journey was this, is pretty much the same.
Yeah,
So
just to add to that, sorry.
go ahead,
Just
go
to
ahead.
add to that, there was a lot of like students who would come from Honduras, and like they had a really hard time assimilating just because they didn't have the regular classes. A lot of them, like even the history classes, were in Spanish. So a lot of the times when we'd have classes that we had together, like gym and health and stuff like that, like I always took it upon me to try to help them out and try to make them feel kind of like at home and make them feel like they belong in the school as well. So I think that what you're saying is definitely true.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like when we have ESL students, we have the gen ed teachers that they'll say like, mom and dad didn't come to back to school night. They don't care. And, we're the ones who have to say, well, hold on a second. It's not that they don't care. It's just that you need to get to know your students. Mom and dad might be working 2 jobs, or they don't know what back to school night is, like it's a different culture. So we're also careful because we have in our district like ESL science, ESL math, and those are things that we're making happen, classes for ESL students. But we also want the teachers that are sensitive to those students and their backgrounds to be flexible, compassionate, understanding when they teach those students. We don't want the tough history teacher teaching those students. We want people that are understanding. So we advocate for them, and we don't mind doing it. The ESL teachers and myself, we don't mind doing it at all.
Yeah, just to add off that point really quickly, sorry. Like during like my entire time, like elementary school, middle school, high school, I always struggled with the idea of trying to get good grades and stuff like that, because like my parents weren't able to access like the way to get my grades. Like I could hide my report cards and stuff like that. So like I didn't have the same sort of like driving force. They just assumed I did well because I like to read and I like to like do other stuff that was like pretty like academic in that sense. But I feel like it is a challenge to try to have like Hispanic parents, especially like more involved in the education. But over time, I've definitely been seeing like more of a push for that, especially with like Facebook groups that have like are involved within the school district and stuff like that. I think that like technology has really helped with that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Great to hear your story, Jeffrey. Does anyone else have any other questions before I move on to what is it now that you can do, like while you're trying to figure things out, or do all of you know what you're going to do? Are you all going into Spanish? So some
Um,
of you, yes.
so I'm undecided right now, and I'm thinking about going into law. Um, I I'm not sure though. Like I don't know. I'm kind of like internal struggling, But I think that definitely being a Spanish speaker, it will like give me advantages, especially like nowadays. It's really important to teach your kids Spanish, and it's good to have that extra language to know.
Sure.
And what
And I
happens
think,
to your theater career, Miss Angela?
Okay, so yeah, so I think I'm gonna minor in musical theater.
Okay.
So
I
that's
need,
also
I need you there.
thank you. Yeah, it's also important to know Spanish for musical theater because now, like with Lin-Manuel Miranda and stuff, now there's more Spanish musicals and plays. So that's very exciting too. Yeah.
yes. And we're very grateful that he's has helped open those doors. I mean, in any profession that you choose, having a second language is phenomenal. I mean, in any profession that you choose. You know, I think that as a teacher, I felt like, oh, I can share my passion and what I love. And also this sense of respect and acceptance of others. So like for us in Puerto Rico, when we say cake, we say bizcocho, but maybe someone else might say torta, but being accepted to that and then saying, oh, how do you say it in your country? How do you say it in your country? And things like that. And, how is it different? Or, I remember learning words for my Indian students. They spoke English fine, and maybe they weren't paying attention to me. But when I would pull out some, Gujarati words, they would be like, whoa, senora, But I remember like the word like besija, right? And it was like besija, and it means sit down. And then I'm like, oh, sija, that's a chair for us, and making those connections. And then I'll say, okay, besija, sit down. And they would be like, oh, but they knew that I would go above and beyond for that. So when I see teachers going out of their way for their students, it really just shows us that they really care, but whether you pick law or musical theater or a Spanish teacher, I'm sure you'll do great things. And knowing both languages is just really a head start for you. Anyone else?
I would like to ask you something.
Sure.
Thing is, I am not undecided. I know that I want to be a teacher, and my major is Spanish, so I'm probably gonna be a Spanish teacher, and I'm really passionate about it. But sometimes people tell me like that I have to maybe think about it better because I am a person that is not. I'm very talkative, but they say like I don't have it in me to have like the strict, to be strict enough, or to have like a really like to be respected in the classroom. Like how do you deal with that? How do you make yourself like be respected for your students?
Yeah.
How can you give tips for that, or
Okay, so first let me begin by telling you that if you're passionate about something, don't let anyone else tell you other words. I didn't think I was going to be good at it either, but that's why you're going to school, because that's what they teach us at school. When I took my speech class, I was a nervous wreck getting up there. But the more you do it and the more presentations you do in their classes, and the more confident you become because you know what you do, you know that you're good at it, you're just going to get better at it. Nobody's perfect coming out of college, like putting them in front of the class. But that's why you have your colleagues and people like me and your principal and your vice principal and your counselors to support that. I didn't think I was going to be able to get in front of people to talk in front of the classroom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, but you get better at it. And the first year it was like, okay, I lived through it. It was okay. But by the third year, you just become a pro. So it just comes with time. And those are things you're learning. And you have to be forgiving of yourself and say, you know what, maybe maybe people don't think I have that personality, but if I have the passion, I can do it. So it's going to take, it'll take time, but it's okay. Don't think that I was like, oh, I'm not going to be up there in front of high school seniors and be amazing at it. No, I'm just going to do the best I can. And they're human beings. So it's not like, you know, it's not like, you know, you're in front of aliens here, you know, you're in front of kids who are looking at you as the expert. So, you know, I see that other people can relate to what you're saying. So you're not the only one, you know. A lot of times, even like I was telling Dr. Edstrom, a student that we went to school with, she came back to New Jersey and I just recently hired her. And she's like, Vicky, I never taught high school before. And I said, it's okay. There are students just bigger. You know, I said, it's okay. So you take it one day at a time. And there's sometimes when the subject, when you don't remember, oh my God, the subjunctive, I don't remember the subjunctive. So the night before or a couple of days before, you go and you study it and you remember and you put a presentation together and you go on ahead. And there'll be teachers that say, oh, I have a presentation on the subjunctive. I'll share it with you. Oh, Dr. Edstrom said the same thing, that she was too shy. Yeah, I could see that. But it comes. And then what happens is when you, as you start, it's just like practicing, like riding a bike. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So she will be okay. And I will say that what I could recommend too is that if you're going to school, if you're a student, and let's say if you have 60 credits or more, you can be a substitute in any district in the state of New Jersey. So that alone, that year and a half of me subbing for PE, for kindergarten, those are all learning experiences, getting to know people, how things work, how does the school system work, how to get in front of kids. So does it take a little bit of time? It does. But if you're willing to do the work and you're passionate about it, why not? And teaching is a great gig. Look, you have summers off. You work from, from September to June, the middle of June or end of June. You have off when the kids have off. You know, a week and a half at Christmas, and then you have the Easter break, and then you have the NJEA convention, and there's always classes. We always used to go to all those conventions too, and that was awesome. And our starting salary in Parsippany is probably almost $60,000. So really, it's not a bad gig. It really is it's a great profession. You get a pension, you know, you work for 25 years, you're vested, you get health insurance. I mean, you have to pay into it now, but you know, but it really is just a wonderful profession. If you want to be a Spanish teacher, you always have a job right now, because teachers are in such demand. But when you're talking about special areas, Spanish, French, Italian, ESL, a foods teacher, a science teacher, even a math teacher, right now, huge demand. When I graduated, there were only 4 of us with a teaching certificate in December when I graduated that year. And I remember seeing the stack for PE gym teachers, like the stack was like this big and we were 4, you know? So, I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful profession. And if you want to have a family, even better, because the hours are great. Our high school teachers get out at 2:30. They start at 7:30, but they're out at 2:30 already. Now, the work never ends because you're always, you know, you work at home, you grade papers and things like that. But if you organize yourself, you'll be good at it. Anybody else?
Thank you so much.
Can I add a little bit to that?
Sure.
I'm doing student teaching for my master's. So I had the same exact fear because I look very young. I'm 22, but I look very young. So I thought, how am I going to speak to students who some might be older than me and some are my same age? So I had the same fear that I wouldn't receive the same respect and things like that. But I've learned that it's a lot about balancing too, that you can be friendly and still, if you know what you're talking about and you're teaching them and leading them, they do respect you. And I also wanted to comment that Dr. Estrom is a very good example of that too, because she jokes around with us and she is friendly, but she says, whoa, 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 let's be quiet and focus now. And she gets that respect from us as well.
Right. So that's great. You're doing your student teaching, and you said like with your master's, is that what you want to do, a Spanish teacher?
No, I am actually going into translation.
Into translation. Fantastic.
If I may add, Abigail is working on our communicative workshops, which is a new project that we have with the language courses, and she's doing a fantastic job. Students love it. And so congratulations, Abigail, because really the feedback that we get from the students is fantastic. So
She's the best audio translator. Yeah.
That's
too.
great.
I feel that I need to say something else. She's working with the National Spanish Blind Association, translating into English. Right now, she's in her third movie. She did the Downton Abbey yesterday, and now you're working on Harry Potter and the Chamber of, I don't remember which one.
Chamber of Secrets. Yeah, it's so fun with audio description. So basically translating visual information.
Fantastic.
And she's great too, so she has a lot of talents.
That's awesome. Yes, Charlie.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. I'm actually studying to be a Spanish and ESL teacher, and I'm in Clinical 1 right now, so I'm actually student teaching with the kids at Newark, and I'm doing my ESL in my hometown. And one, I could definitely attest to the advocacy that teachers have to give to the students, especially for ESL. I've seen that big time. The teacher that I'm actually student teaching with, I had her in high school, and she just recently became an ESL teacher, and she loves it. And just from the get-go, I could see how much she advocates for the students, and how much they just rely on her to kind of help them out with anything they need. And in terms of the student teaching, I actually started substitute teaching. I was substitute teaching similar to you the days that I had off from school, and I was substitute teaching at a local school for about 1.5 years as well, up until this semester. And just like you said, putting your foot in the door is so important nowadays. And within a year of me substitute teaching there, they actually offered me a job there, but I obviously couldn't take it because I wasn't done with school yet. But it was something nice to hear that that they trusted me with the students, and just by, I guess, the principal coming to see me every now and then to see how I was working with everyone and with the kids, it was nice to hear that I was getting something offered like that before even graduating. So I just want to give everyone the boost of confidence to don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. And God gave us the gift and the opportunity to actually be in school, so we might as well use it to our advantage. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yes, that's awesome. I think that what happens is we hear things from students, and we hear things from other teachers. And so when you student teach, or you're doing work or clinical work, or you're in a building and you say, how's everything going with your student teacher? Oh, he's fantastic. And, he goes above and beyond, and he understands the students, and he's patient with them. And then that word gets to your school administrators. It does. Just like the good word goes around, and the bad word too, about like, oh, well, he leaves early, he doesn't like what he's doing, he's not patient with the students. It's the same thing. Your heart has to be in it. But, kudos to you that they already offered you a job too. I mean, but that goes to show you that when they see someone, they want to pick up that person because, oh, well, we've invested in this person, right? We've vested in them, and why not have them be part of our community because we see that he cares. Anyone else? Allison, Carmen, Julissa, Ashley?
I think I have like a comment. It's more like my own. Just hearing all of this, especially everybody else's stories, including your own. My my dream, I say this like with my dying wish, I'd like to have a community outreach center for Latino communities that are predominantly Hispanic communities, because I am a native English speaker. I learned Spanish through public school, and my Spanish teachers, I've had Galope, Edstrom, and Vizcaino for the past year or two that I've been in school, and they've helped me flourish as a student. And even my high school teachers, I am still in contact with them to this day. And to hear the stories of other teachers and people's dreams and how they love to help students makes me feel more confident in what I'd like to do in my own career. I contemplated teaching, I contemplated ESL. I was really close with the ESL teacher because I was super active in her class and with her students. And like, I love her to death, and to hear the students and how they come out and the relationships they have, not only with the teacher, but also some of the students within that class, they build their own little family and their own little community because they really rely on each other. So just thank you for everyone sharing their stories, because it makes me feel more confident in what I'd like to do and relationships I hope to build with other teachers in creating my little outreach centers.
And you will make it happen. I'm sure about that. I will say that when I came into being a supervisor 8 years ago, I knew about ESL, but I wasn't really like familiar with it. But when you have 17 teachers that are passionate about what they do, what ends up happening is that you want to work for them and you want to help them do better and be there for their kids, and and advocate for their kids, and you want to be that support system to them. So in our district, we had our ESL teachers, one per school. In Parsippany, there's 14 schools, but we have 17 teachers because some of the schools are more heavy populated with ESL students. But I remember they were saying, like, we need translators, like we need people to translate. And so we created this translating program. I went and I hired 2 of those teachers, and I advocated for 2 positions, and it was called Family and Community Outreach. And we have 2 of them, and I have one on each side of town. And one of them is Chinese, and the other one, she's a non-native speaker, but she speaks Spanish. And I'm like, fantastic. They applied for the job. I hired them. I advocated for this stipend, and we hired them. Well, one of them is in charge of, they do other things as family and community outreach, but it's almost like to improve our program, right? So what we do is we created a translating program where we have 7,000 students, but 700 teachers, and plus the staff members. So what we did was we created like a translating pool, and we put it out there. Like, if you speak another language, we'd like you to join our translating, program, and had them fill out the proper paperwork. And now we have 50 members on that. So now when we need a language, we go right to our list and we ask this person, can you help out? And people are more than happy to help. We pay them, of course, it's just really nice, compensate them, but that's a program that they've always wanted to start. So we started it. We also do family and community outreach. We do a homework club for our ESL kids, and we do them on Tuesdays and on Thursdays. And those are students that need help with homework, because now with the pandemic, it put on hold, but mom and dad, like Charlie was saying, mom and dad sometimes can't help. They can't help with homework. So our teachers are there to help them for an hour after school, and the parents appreciated that. We have adult English classes for our parents. We've created those things, and we get state funds, and we buy backpacks for them, and we buy t-shirts for them from their school, because we want the students to feel like if they're having a spirit day, we want them to have a t-shirt with their school logo or name on it. So those are things that we've become sensitive to. And then, and we have our family and community outreach program. And I called the state because I remember saying, I don't know what else to do. We need more programs and things like that. And she said, go to Newark. She said they're doing amazing things. So I went to Newark, I met with people, and then I was like, we can do something like this in our town. But it's just the once you kind of explain that to your administrators and say, look, our parents and our students who don't speak English need help. And we're here and we want to help them. And, you know, a lot of times I say to people, well, you know, you can have all the education in the world, but if they pick you up and put you in Japan or Korea, you know, or how are you going to do? You know what I mean? So how is that going to be? You know what I mean? So you kind of got to let them like a little bit, like get to know, kind of remind them of like how it would be to be a, you know, a language learner in a foreign country. And it's not easy. So I give a lot of people that come to this country a lot of courage, you know, but we're here for them because, you know, they're here for opportunity and we want to help them with that. So good for you, Harley. I think you're going to do it. You're going to do amazing things.
I appreciate knowing that there are companies or that there are outreach centers that already exist, or whether they're tied into the school. Because I've experienced through friends who, you know, they're either here with papers without working to get a green card. So I've seen the trials and tribulations of knowing whether or not, or how to take the SAT and what that means to get into college, because I'm not sure how common this is, but within my high school, the people that I had talked to, they thought that the PSAT was the actual SAT, and then that would take them into college. And I had to explain to them, unfortunately not. You have to take a separate test that you pay more money for in order to get into a 4-year college. Otherwise, you go to the community college and, you know, you do your associates there. So I'd like to have some sort of center that's based off of providing not only like educators, but doctors and lawyers, bankers, financiers, translators, literally anything that they can think of in one centralized location, so that no matter their immigration status or healthcare status or whatever, they can go somewhere to find help at a low cost or free if possible.
And funded by like the community itself, or like
community,
companies.
the state, for sure.
Yeah, it would be amazing if we had one in our district, like somewhere that they can go, you know, and get that and feel that support. Yes, you can make that happen. And I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, está bien. Yo quiero agregar acerca del tema de la inseguridad, como decía Begoña. Yo soy un ejemplo de que yo vine yo estudié en mi país, soy mexicana, y me gradué precisamente para ser maestra allá. No ejercí, terminé la carrera y me vine. Entonces me encontré con esa bola gigantesca del idioma y lo tenía que aprender. Mi idioma obviamente más confortable para comunicarme es español primero, pero entiendo mucho inglés. Sin embargo, me encontré con el equivalente que si yo fue una meta muy grande estudiar y querer ser maestra en mi país. Me vine, me ilusioné, me vine por acá, me costó un poco de trabajo averiguar, informarme y tomar la confianza de que yo quería retomar el campo de la educación acá. So me tocó comenzar con trabajar daycare, preescolar. No me fue tan difícil porque en ese lapso fui madre, tuve mis hijos, estuve ama de casa. Sin embargo, una vez que empecé a indagar más, volví con la idea, no la dejé, y me fui al Board of Education de aquí del pueblo. Alguien me guió y me dijo, ¿tú tienes los créditos universitarios para ser maestra suplente? Entonces lo hice y he visto a mis hijos pasar por la escuela, incluso conozco a Charlie que está en el grupo. Yo fui maestra suplente algunas clases de él. Ahorita estoy más enfocada con los pequeños, que son con los que siento más atracción, los que siempre están ahí. Y pues el distrito, la verdad, me aprecia mucho, me cuida mucho. Sin embargo, por no tener la equivalencia aquí, perdí la oportunidad a lo mejor de tener la posición de ESL o de World Languages, pero no me arrepiento porque mientras mis hijos estaban pequeños, ahorita ya adolescentes, justo ahorita están jugando soccer en el pueblo y no pude ir a verlo, pero creo que esa es la gran satisfacción de que no importa de dónde vine, de dónde, el tener las oportunidades acá y saberlas buscar, y siempre como en su caso de usted, profesora, el distrito te ayuda y te apoya muchísimo. Entonces, ahorita estoy buscando certificarme con la elegibilidad para World Languages, para enseñar español. Y hay 2 distritos para los que trabajo y siento que ellos nunca me darán la espalda y quizás me van a apoyar. Entonces estoy en esas metas, pero mientras tanto, estando en las clases de acá, también estoy descubriendo que la traducción es un campo también muy atractivo, especialmente para la gente como nosotros que venimos de otros países y venimos y caemos en lo bilingüe. Y es muy importante, y yo tengo familia que quizás no se comunica en un porcentaje muy alto en el otro idioma, entonces a veces me veo en la necesidad de apoyar y ayudar a ellos también. Entonces, estoy entre ese camino, pero también estoy muy contenta en lo que hago actualmente. Ser maestra sustituta me ha dado mucho también y mucho aprendizaje, mucha seguridad. Yo también era como el dulce ahí con los niños pequeños, pero cuando quieren abusar de mí, tenía que poner un poco, ser la mala, pero no me gusta, pero pues tiene uno que saber dónde y cuándo tienes que ser estricta.
Bueno, le digo que no es fácil, no, me imagino que no es fácil, pero los hijos de usted también van a ver que el sacrificio que usted hizo para, para ellos, porque los hijos míos, yo le dije a ellos, no lo quiero oír quejándose, porque cuando yo regresé a la escuela, lo tenía ellos, ellos eran jovencitos, 5, 7 años y a lo mejor 11 años y ya tienen 20 y pico. So, cuando fueron a la universidad, ellos sabían que no se podían quejar. Pero yo también para adelante, ¿no? Porque uno tiene que seguir luchando y también para su familia, pero yo vengo de padres que ni se graduaron de high school y mis abuelos fueron maybe hasta 3er grado. So, yo siento que todo el sacrificio que ellos hicieron, lo hicieron para mí. So, usted se tiene que sentir muy orgullosa para llegar y hacer lo que usted está haciendo. So,
así es, mis padres también, su educación fue muy básica.
yeah.
3er grado, quizás.
So, cuando yo enseño o cuando yo enseño, cuando yo estoy en la clase o cuando yo estoy hablando, cuando estoy abocando, right, advocating para mis estudiantes de ESL o las maestras, yo estoy representando mis padres y mis abuelos. Y mis hijos también, en una manera. No sé, yo creo que usted entiende como lo que yo digo, pero I can't even explain it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, all that struggle that they had is really what has allowed me to be where I am. So just like Jeffrey was saying before, how grateful he is, and, you know, and the thing is, like, I can't let that go to waste because that struggle was for me to get here. So now that my kids are, now the 3 of them, you know, have graduated from college, you know, the thing is, like, I've done my job. And, you know, Harley, you were talking about dreams and, you know, and you guys are talking about like wishes, and my dream is, well, those dreams can become reality. The thing is that they become reality. So I would say that I've had dreams. And my dreams were for me to graduate from college, to have children to graduate from college. And those dreams came true. So now I can make new dreams. And then, you know, so those are things that they can happen. They can happen. Okay.
That was really beautiful. And could you tell us how, if students are interested, I mean, how do we go through that process? I mean, after like choosing the major, of course.
Right. So you really, so the thing is that if you have the language, and if you, right, Harley, you have the language, and even though you're a non-native speaker, but you have the language and you have the passion for it, that's it right there, number 1. Like, you're already a head start there. You have the passion for learning, you have the this is everything I'm hearing. You have the passion for wanting to help, for wanting to assist, to make, to do things that make you feel productive and purposeful. And the thing is that you choose that major of where you think that you can make a difference. Because what happens is, do we want to become like a lot of our parents that went to work on Monday morning and it's like, oh, I got to go to work today. You know what I mean? Or it's like, I get to go to work today. There's a difference, right? So when you choose your major and, you know, right now, a lot of you are doing things that are kind of gearing you to help you and support you. Like Abigail's doing all those things, like to build on her resume. You know, Harley, you're talking about community outreach. Well, we have community outreach, but you know, maybe find out about what are they doing and what can you do and how can you make it better. You know, try to, you guys can even be tutors at one point, and then that will help you. Substitute teachers. Those are all kinds of things that you can help, and then kind of figure it out. Is this something I want to do? And I know right now we're in the pandemic, but a lot of times you can even ask. Like people can ask me and say, can I join your class, or can I join a meeting with your teachers and things like that? Because we want to support administrators and teachers that love what we're doing, want to support other people that want to do it as well, right? So, I mean, choosing your major, of course, is number one, and deciding on what you want to do, and, you know, and set some goals, definitely set some goals. You know, I want to talk about what I look for in a candidate. You know, the first thing I ask is, why did you become a Spanish teacher? I don't want to hear because you took summers off. I want to hear it's because you love your language, because you love the culture, because you love learning, because, you know, because you're passionate about something, whether it's musical theater, or, you know, learning a new language, or being able to connect with people or help people. So those are the answers that that we like to hear. But, you know, I mean, a world language teacher, a Spanish teacher, French and Italian teacher, they're just so passionate about what they do, and, you know, and they enjoy it, and they enjoy sharing the culture with everyone else. Spanish teaching, I would say that if you can do some student teaching, if you have to do alternate route, then you do alternate route. Either way, we look at both candidates. You know, and then, you know, if it's something that you have to work at, whether it's like, you know, getting in front of the classroom, or, you know, learning more about other cultures, but be open to that and be flexible. So, you know, those are things like what we look for in candidates. Does anyone else have any questions about the profession? Chelsea, you, Allison, I haven't heard from. Julissa. Oh, there's 26 people on here.
I'm looking at the clock. We should probably start wrapping up, but what would be your final word of advice for, let's say that these students want to become teachers. What would be your most practical advice for them in just a minute or two? What should they do now to be the best prepared, besides getting A's in all their Spanish classes? How could they be best prepared to come to you and look for a job?
I think that coming in with an open mind and looking for, I think that being acceptance to growth is big. There's some people that they come and they want to be teachers and they think they know everything, or just because they know the language, or they just graduated from school. But sometimes it is enough. But sometimes the thing is that we're learners. So it's, you know, as a teacher, if you decide to become a teacher, you're really just it's ongoing. It's never ending. To be open to, you know, to constructive criticism, or to be open to guidance and feedback, to be willing to think outside the box, to be willing to advocate for your student, to be flexible, to be understanding, compassionate. Those are things that I would say that we look for in a world language teacher. And it looks like a lot of you are really on your way there. It's wonderful to see. It really is. It's a profession that doesn't get the respect sometimes that it deserves. I think that, you know, teaching is a labor of love, but it's something that is so rewarding, like I mentioned before. And we're in a teacher shortage right now. So we need world language teachers. We need Spanish teachers. We need Italian, French teachers, ESL teachers, you know, people who can help us translate to families. You know, so we need you kind of to step up and then just to make a difference there. So, you know, and if any of you ever want some advice or you want a phone call, I can, you know, Dr. Edstrom can give you my information. And you can also look on the Parsippany website. All my information's on there. But I'd be more than happy to answer any other questions.
Allison and Chelsea, they both raised their hands, so probably
Okay.
they have something to say.
Chelsea?
Allison?
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you for sharing your experience and sharing advice. And I totally agree with you that it's something that if you want to go into, you know, Spanish teaching, we were talking about this in Professor Edstrom's classroom the other day, that, you know, us as teachers, we learn, and as time passes by, language changes as well. You know, we're learning about how Latin, you know, it was the root of how Spanish became a language, and other languages as well. So it's like, you know, language evolves, and with it, our students, you know, there's different generations, and it's like we have to be open to learning, open to what our students have to say. And I totally agree that, you know, this is something that if you want to go for, you have to have the motivation to do it, because teaching isn't an easy job. I also had a conversation today with, I think one of my coworkers, and I think Professor Edstrom, how you think that teaching education can be something easy, but when you start in your first year, it's something so new that you're going to make mistakes. You know, you have to come up with lesson plans. You have to come up with, what are you going to teach every single day for that first year? And from there and on, you will learn, you know, you will learn. It's not going to be perfect, and it's definitely tough. In regards to the job itself, I don't remember who mentioned it. I think it was Begonia. I've received a lot of criticism when people ask me, oh, what are you studying? And I'm like, oh, I'm studying to be a Spanish teacher in ESL. And they're like, you should consider that job, because I'm pretty sure teachers don't get paid that well. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't think about a job because of what you're gaining in perspective of how much money you're going to gain, because you want to pick something that's going to motivate you every single day to get up and go. You know, it can't be something that, oh, I'm going to, you know, I have to go to work. Like, for example, today I woke up and the bed was delicious today, and I didn't want to get out of bed. And then I was telling my boyfriend this. I'm like, oh my God, this bed is so delicious. I think I want to call off. Obviously, I didn't. But he was like, we have to be thankful. And he's also a teacher. He's like, we have to be grateful and thankful, especially during these times, that we have a job, you know, that we can get up and go to school and teach, because so many people would love to at least have a job right now. So I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to get up. I'm going to have a positive day, and I'm going to do the best I can, you know? So I feel like that's the mindset, the drive that we should have if you want to go this route of Spanish teaching. Well, in any job in general, you know, you have to have that mindset. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thanks, Chelsea. Or teaching profession too. If you think about it, sometimes I tell teachers, they're like, oh, that student is so much work. And I'm like, yeah, but guess what? You only have them for 3 more months. You know what I mean? So think about it. Every day you get to start off fresh, you know, and then every year you get a whole new group of students. So it's always like, you know, it's always like this year I might have the best students, and next year it's like might be a little bit more challenging, but those students might need you just as much as those really good students from last year. But definitely we should be grateful for what we have. Someone else had a question?
You had a question also? And with this one, probably we can round up the, yes.
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick. It's more of just like an appreciation for all teachers. My mom's a teacher as well, and as a child of a teacher, from a different point of view, at times it can be a bit frustrating, because like teachers are working 24/7. Like, it's not only in school, it's when you're at home. Sometimes you're late up night, maybe even up to 3 a.m. and then have to wake up at 5 because you have to go to work the next day, just to like have the perfect class for your students and make sure they like learn and like enjoy what they're learning. And I have a really great appreciation for all teachers because of what I've seen my mom do. And yeah, for anybody that's going into like teaching, I encourage you guys. You guys are probably going to make a big difference, and you guys have a family, your children will most likely appreciate what you're doing because they're going to see all the hard work you put into it. So yeah.
Definitely. Thank you, Allison. And I will say that, if you go to a supportive school district, a district that supports you, they're going to give you the support and the resources that you need, to just manage your time and organize your time. So those are things that to look into as well when you go into the profession. But it is a wonderful profession. It really is. I have no regrets whatsoever.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, this was fantastic. Anne, would you like to say the final word?
Sure. Thank you so much, Vicky. It's fun for me, having known you way back in Spanish 4, to see how the incredible things you've done. And I appreciate your enthusiasm. And something about Vicky is that she always talks straight. She tells you exactly what to expect. So for those of you who are in the Teacher Ed program, she's going to come back and have a little chat with you about how to do an interview, how to do your cover letter, what not to say, how to behave yourself and get a job. And she's great because she tells you the inside story as the person who hires. So I hope whether or not you personally want to be a teacher, I think it's been a really encouraging conversation just to appreciate those who are, especially right now. Teachers really have it tough trying to teach online and at home. I was just talking to someone, a former student, Spanish teacher. She said the kindergarten teacher at my school cries every day because she's got some on Zoom and some in the room, and she just feels totally stressed out. So this is a great time. And like Allison said, how she respects her mom, it's a great time to just celebrate a really meaningful profession. So thank you, Vicky, and thanks everybody for coming. It was really great to see you all.
Good luck to everyone, and it was wonderful meeting you all. And I know that if you focus on what you want to do, if you don't let anyone tell you otherwise, and and do it for yourself. Honestly, just do it for yourself. If you need any help, if you have any questions, definitely reach out. Okay. And I look forward to seeing you in the next group. All right. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.